The Grand Slam gets underway in just a couple of days now, so of course I've got to go ahead and make my predictions. Hopefully I can actually do good with these ones, because yeah, the last couple have not been very good. Let's get into this. So I'm going to start off with the groups, of course, and then make our way through the knockout round. So of course, obviously the outcomes of my groups will then be reflected through the outcomes of my knockout games. So this is all hypothetical. So hopefully, hopefully I get as many right as possible, because I've not had good luck with my predictions lately. So hopefully I do a bit better with these ones. I'm gonna try and fly through these as quickly as possible, so that this video doesn't go on for too long. So without further ado, let's start off with Group A. So Group A, I think, will be Luke Humphries and Nathan Aspinall who make it through this group. I do think Group A one of the tougher groups out of the 8. And Luke Humphries obviously is defending prize money this year, 150 grand to defend. So yeah, he's going to need a good run at this tournament. I think he probably will win this group. I know last year he failed to win the to even qualify for the knockout rounds last year, but he has stuff going on in his personal life, which is what was affecting him. I think he's all good at the moment, so I think it'll be more of normality from Luke Humphries. And I think Aspinall will come in second place. Although, to be fair, it is important that we don't write off Michael Smith and Alex Spellman. Obviously, in my live reactions video, I sort of wrote off Alex Spellman in a way. I probably shouldn't have done that, to be fair, because he probably is the best American player right now, and he's definitely more than capable of giving these lads a game. I still think we'll finish bottom of the group just because of the lack of experience on the big stage compared to the other three. And again, with Michael Smith, you just don't really know where he's at. He's playing some good stuff, he's just not getting the results. I think that might just end up affecting him at this time around. So yeah, Group A, the Humphries and Aspinall through to the last 16. Group B is where I've got my first sort of upset, so to speak. I've gone with Chris Dobey and Martin Lukeman to make it through to the last 16, and Damon Heta to not make the last 16, which is a big call. I'm aware, Dobey and Heta, although the two very good players, they're both pretty poor on the big stage. In particular, Heta, who hasn't quite got the bottle, which has been sort of required from him. He hasn't quite been at the races and the TV stages ever. Other than his semi-final of the UK Open that he got last year, hasn't quite done too well on the TV stage. And I think, again, in the first of 5 format, and considering the fact that Martin Lukeman was a finalist last year, don't forget. I think people are forgetting that Martin Lukeman, he's here because he made the final last year, right? That's why he's here. And he's done this format before. He knows how it works. He's proven that he can do it. And honestly, I think he makes it for this group. And to be fair, I think it's possible that Heta could finish bottom, because Van der Velde is not a bad player at all. We saw in the World Youth final, he probably should have won it had it not been again for missing those matches at Darts, which again is probably why I'm sort of not really backing Van der Velde much this weekend, because of his bottle on the big stage. Now, for me, it's why I've backed Dobey and Lukeman to make it through Group B. Group C, again, quite a tough one, because it could end up being, I think it's the first one where it could end up really being in sort of any order, really. But I've gone with Stephen Bunting and Martin Schindler to make it through Group C. Although, to be fair, I think you could probably, in my opinion, you could probably interchange between Bunting, Schindler, and Woodhouse. Really, I think the only reason why I haven't backed Luke Woodhouse, really, I think it's just because, in my opinion, Schindler and Bunting are more consistent than Woodhouse is. I mean, like, Woodhouse can have a brilliant performance one game, and then the next game he struggles to average 90. You know what I mean? Whereas I think Bunting and Schindler, they both won quite a few titles between them now, as Woodhouse still hasn't. Yeah, I think right now, I think for me, Bunting and Schindler do go through that group. As well, of course, obviously do have Alexis Toilo, who is here because Lawrence Logan unfortunately couldn't make it. And to be fair with Toilo, I don't know, I don't like writing players off, but I just think in this group where he's up against 3 really tough opponents to beat, yeah, I just can't see him doing too well in this group, but who knows. So yeah, Group C, I've gone with Bunting and Schindler. Group D, I think this is a pretty straightforward one for me. I've gone with Gerwyn Price and James Wade to make it through. I've seen a few people back Ricky Evans to make it through this group, which I can see why, because Evans, he is capable of giving the top players a good game. I mean, I think obviously Evans was in the top 32 not so long ago as well, which I think people do sort of forget. But for me, I think Price and Wade, Like, they've both been there, done that. They've won major after major. And again, I know it's a short format, but I just think them two will have no issues whatsoever in this group as well. And of course, Stefan Belmont as well. He hasn't quite got the big stage experience. He's had a couple of World Cups. He's also played a World Championship as well. But for me, when you got both Price and Wade in one group, it kind of stuffed, really, to be fair. So I think, again, Gerwyn Price, James Wade will make it through in Group D. Group E, Luke Littler's group. Obviously, Littler is the defending champion for the Grand Slam. Would he go back to back? Which is something which doesn't really happen these days. It's very rare that someone goes back to back in winning majors. To be fair with Littler, again, this is absolutely no disrespect to the other guy in the group, but for me, Littler should be expecting to absolutely steamroll through this group. Just to play that he is the world champion, he's capable of just absolutely destroying anybody on his day. And to be fair, he's been given a kind group. Compared to who he could have gotten, he's definitely gotten away with this one, I think. And again, in terms of second place, it's completely wide open between Daryl Gurney, Karel Sedlacek, and Connor Scott. But I've backed Connor Scott to get second place, because for me, Daryl Gurney, his record at the Grand Slam isn't great, to be honest. And I think with Gurney, it can take a while for him to get going in games sometimes. And in the first to five format, you just can't afford it to slow start, because if you have a slow start, you're done, basically. For me, if I was going to back someone to really come out the gates flying, it's Connor Scott, which is why I've backed him to go through with Luke Littler. So yeah, Group E, Littler and Connor Scott. So my sort of second-ish big upset with Daryl Gurney getting knocked out in the group stages, but yeah, an interesting group, that one. Group F, we have almost the same group of devs as last year, but of course, obviously, Stephen Bunting is in another group this time around, but we still have Jan Van Veen, Josh Rock, and Wessel Nijman back together again, but this time being joined by Lisa Ashton. And I think it will be a similar result to last time. I think Jan Van Veen will go through the group. I think Josh Rock will join him. Wessel Nijman, in my opinion, right now is in better form than both Rock and Van Veen is, but as we've seen by now, in the major, in particular, the European Championship and the World Series Finals, Wessel Nijman's bottle on the big stage is not there yet. He can average 100, he can average well into the hundreds, and he would still does not win a game. Like I think so at the Slam last year, I think Nijman averaged 105 for the tournament, and he didn't win a game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just absolutely insane. And for me, Van Veen and Rock, right now, they're both being called to be in the Premier League next year by fans. Yeah, I think them two probably will go through the group. Nijman will finish out in third place, and Lisa Ashton, bless her, she's been given an absolute horrible group to be in, and yeah, I don't envy her at all. I really don't. But yeah, Group F, Van Veen and Rock. And in Group G, another group of death. We have Michael van Gerwen, Gary Anderson, Nico Springer, and Bo Greaves. Not an easy group at all. And again, it's just another group where it could literally finish in any order. You've just got no idea who is going to go through. And for this one, for me, it was a really tough one to call. But I've backed Van Gerwen and Bo Greaves to go through the group. I know it's a big call, leaving Gary Anderson out. Obviously, bear in mind, Gary Anderson was a semi-finalist last year. But I feel like a lot of people are tipping Bo Greaves to do well this year in the Grand Slam. I think she will do well. But I don't know why I'm liking Van Gerwen at the moment. I think him not being at the Players' Championship Finals might help him out a little bit more. The fact that he's back from holiday now. He's had time to reset, refresh ahead of this Grand Slam, and then once this is done, he's then got like a month break until the World Championship now. So I think the fact knowing that he's got another long break after this tournament could do him a lot of good. And I think he might just make through the group with Bo Greaves in second place. Fortunately for Gary and Nico, they're both gonna miss out in this one. I think this group will be a tight one as expected, but I think MVG and Greaves will make it through. And finally, Group H, for me, probably a pretty easy one to predict. To be honest, I've gone with Danny Noppert and Johnny Clayton to go through, with Cam Crabtree and Lucas Vienig both missing out again. Similar to Group D, really, where Noppert and Clayton, between them, there's just so much big stage experience. They've both won majors between them, and yeah, when you literally are coming up against literally two inexperienced players in Cam Crabtree and Lucas Vienig, you're just thinking, yeah, it's like, again, I know, it took up the whole jeopardy of the short format and such, but yeah, I just don't see a really that's where Noppert and Clayton don't make it through this group. And this isn't me being disrespectful to Crabtree of anything, because you are both good players. But I think again, just Noppert and Clayton, they're both in really good form at the minute as well, so you just can't look past them to make it through this group. So then, those are my 16 that I think will make it through to knockout rounds. Now it's time for me to predict the knockout rounds. So, going off my predictions, then these are my last 16 games. So first we do have Luke Humphries against Martin Lukeman. Lukeman obviously made the final last year, as I just discussed before, but I do think he would lose to Luke Humphries in the last 16. For me, and I'll talk about this with Luke Littler as well later on, but the best possible time to get Humphries and Littler for me is, of course, obviously in the group, and still in the last 16. Because for me, I think that the last 16 is the last round where really you're going to have a good chance to actually really do beat one of the Lukes. Because if both the Lukes make it to the quarterfinals, it could be curtains for everybody else. But yeah, I do think Humphries will beat Martin Lukeman in the last 16. Chris Dobey up against Nathan Aspinall, two really good mates playing each other. Obviously, they just recently played each other on the Pro Tour. Dobey finally beating Aspinall. Obviously, Dobey's got a horrible record against Nathan, but did manage to beat him on that day. And to be fair, Dobey, when he's hitting his doubles, he's a very, very dangerous player. But I think in a first to 10 format, I would probably back Aspinall to beat him in that one. So I think I will back Aspinall to beat Chris Dobey. Stephen Bunting against James Wade, a very good last 16 clash there as well. And again, I think I probably would back James Wade to beat Stephen Bunting in the first 10 race. Gerwyn Price against Martin Schindler, again, pretty straightforward one for me. Gerwyn Price would beat Martin Schindler there. Luke Littler against Josh Rocker, a huge game in the last 16. I mean, to be fair, I think even if Littler does come through his group, he's got a tough last 16 opponent, whoever makes it through Group F. And then I think it does depend on who finishes where, because first in Group E, play second in Group F, and then vice versa. For me, I think if Littler does play Josh Rock in the first of 10 game, I think Josh Rock wins. And I know I'm going to get a lot of people like, what are you on about? But for me, playing in the fact that no one really defends this major title, it just hasn't been done in the last few years, obviously, other than Luke Humphries going back to back in the Championship Finals, Michael Van Gerwen winning back to back Premier Leagues. In this decade, it just hasn't happened, and I think it will happen again where Lula won't defend the title. I think Josh Rock beats him, which it's a huge call because Josh Rock's not been in good form lately, and I think that's really gone under the radar of how poor he's been since the World Series Finals. But I think he beats Littler. I really, really do. And I can't wait to be proven wrong on that one when Littler absolutely destroys him, or Van Veen or Nyman, whoever finishes second place. But yeah, I think Luke Littler will be out in the last 16. Which goes back to saying before how, again, in this format, I think Littler's still very vulnerable in this format where we saw James Wade beat him 10-7. I think it was 10-7 in the Europeans, a few weeks ago. Yeah, I think the same probably would happen. But yeah, I think Rock does beat Littler in this one. Jan Van Veen against Connor Scott. Van Veen for me, he's just come off the back of winning his first major title. He's in brilliant form. I think he beats Connor Scott in the first of 10 game. Michael Van Gerwen against Johnny Clayton. It could be a pretty interesting one. This one, I think if I like somebody in the first of 10 format, I probably would back Van Gerwen to beat Clayton in that one. And finally, Danny Noppert against Bo Greaves. I mean, to be fair, had it been a few months ago, I probably would have backed Bo Greaves to beat Noppert, but for me, Noppert, again, he's gone really under the radar just how well he's actually been playing this year. And again, he is one of the form players. And for me, Noppert, I think in a first to 10 game, Noppert for me beats Bo Greaves in that one. And then moving on to my quarterfinals, do have Luke Humphries and Nathan Aspinall once again playing each other. Them two must be fucking sick of playing each other. I think we are like well into double digits now for them. How many times they played each other this year. Of course they'll be playing each other in the groups and then potentially again in the quarterfinals. And I think from now, where it's first to 16. I mean, I don't think there's not many players who can cope with Luke Humphries in a long format. I'm sorry, Nathan. I think you'd be done. I think Luke Humphries beats Nathan Aspinall in the first quarter final. James Wade against Gerwyn Price, again a game which could, I think, two players that were both very, very good in the long format. But again, I think sort of similar to Luke Humphries, James Wade's a very tough player to beat in this format. And although Gezi is a very good player and has been much better this year, I think Wade, he beats him there. Josh Rock against Jan Van Veen, two players who aren't used to the long format, to be fair. I think Van Veen obviously made it to the quarterfinal last year. And to be fair, he was only narrowly beaten by Gary Anderson. And again with Josh Rock, where again I don't think Josh Rock's really played in a long format either. Again, I think Josh Rock was also a quarterfinalist 2 years ago, so they've both not had loads of experience in a long format. So again, this one was a real toss of the coin as to who would go through. But I think for someone who to keep up the mentality and the bottle throughout the whole first, I probably would back Josh Rock just. And it is a real tough one to call between them two. I think I probably would back Josh Rock to beat Van Veen in a first of 16 game. And then finally do have Michael Van Gerwen up against Danny Noppert again. Noppert's been in brilliant form lately. He's making his first semi-final at the Europeans. But again, similar to Luke Humphries, similar to James Wade, Van Gerwen in the long format can be tough to play against. And as well as Noppert has been playing, I would back Van Gerwen to come through that one. So moving on to the semi-finals, Luke Humphries against James Wade once again, playing each other. They played each other quite a few times as well in the last sort of year or so. Obviously played each other in the UK Open quarter-final this year where Wade beat him. Humphries beat Wade in the match play semi-final last year. Again, two players who are both very, very good in the long format. But again, I think for me, Luke Humphries would probably beat James Wade in the 16 game, that one. So I would back Luke Humphries. And then Josh Rock against Michael Van Gerwen, I think would be a brilliant game. Obviously, of course, they met each other in the match play last 16 where Rock did beat him. Again, that was in the first to 11 format, so the first to 16. And again, just going off the fact that Van Gerwen can be a tough player to beat in a long format, especially with someone who doesn't have that much experience in a long format. For me, Van Gerwen probably does beat Josh Rock in that one. Which then means my final would be Luke Humphries against Michael Van Gerwen. Definitely one of what I wasn't quite expecting to actually have. And again, this could all be completely different should Van Gerwen or Humphries both fail to get out the groups. And Luke Humphries obviously won it 2 years ago. He blitzed Rob Cross in the final. I think the whole. I think definitely on the Grand Slam final day, I think playing in the first semi-final definitely has more of an advantage. You're playing in the afternoon and then on the evening, it's definitely a grueling task. Which I think Van Gerwen, playing in the second semi-final, I think a few years ago probably wouldn't have made too much of a difference. But I think now, knowing that Van Gerwen isn't quite as good as what he used to be, I think with definitely more competition with the two Lukes and other players as well. I don't know. I mean, like originally I had Van Gerwen to win the slam. I'm not sure that I'm leaning towards Luke Humphries now. To be fair, I just think we've seen it in years gone by. We saw it. I think in 2021 where Gerwyn Price beat Peter Wright comfortably, and this was back when they were both the top two players in the world. Price absolutely obliterated Peter Wright. That's because Price played earlier than Wright did. And to be fair, I didn't take that into consideration before, but now I am. And although to be fair, though, saying that, I do think Humphries will have a longer game against Wade than Van Gerwen with Rock. Screw it, I'm sticking with my prediction. I'm going to back Michael Van Gerwen to win the Grand Slam, which is a huge call because Van Gerwen's literally won one major in the last 2 years, and it was a World Series Finals, which some people don't even count as a major. But I'm sticking with Van Gerwen to win the Grand Slam. I said it before. I can't just switch up now without hearing about. I do think Van Gerwen will win the Grand Slam, which would be absolutely huge, and then. Going off previous years, would then mean that Van Gerwen would then win his fourth world title. Who knows? And again, with that break where he isn't playing at Minehead, who knows? I don't know why. I don't know why I've got so much confidence for Van Gerwen right now. I just think he could. I think he'll do it. I really do. And that, guys, is going to be it for my predictions. It has gone on for a little bit long. I do apologise for that. Obviously, there was quite a lot to cover in this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Do let me know down below who do you guys think will win the Grand Slam. Do you think there'll be any real upsets? I haven't really gone with too many upsets in this tournament. I think obviously the groups has probably been where most of my upsets have been, but other than like 3, it's pretty much been sort of how you'd expect it to go anyway. So not many upsets from me. But who knows with the Grand Slam? It definitely is the most wide open tournament. So yeah, yeah. I'm excited to see how it gets, how we get on. I really am. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you all next time.